Today, we're going to explore a path not of outward action, but of inner stillness. A journey towards what might be one of the most vital skills in life, emotional discipline. So let's start with a question. Just think about this for a second. What if the biggest obstacles you face, maybe your deepest regrets, don't actually stem from a lack of intelligence, but from a lack of emotional discipline? And this is really the core of what we're talking about. You see, in the Islamic tradition, faith isn't just a set of beliefs. It's a very practical system for mastering the self. It teaches control. Okay, so let's get into it by looking at a problem I think we all recognize, and that's the fallout from just one single, uncontrolled moment. Think about how quickly this can happen. A heated text, a comment sent without a second thought, and just like that, a bond that took years to build is broken. Or, in a professional setting, an emotional outburst, maybe a flash of ego, and all the credibility you've carefully built is suddenly undermined. And then, maybe where it hurts the most, at home. One single sentence, spoken in anger, that just hangs in the air long after the moment is gone. Words you can't ever take back. The world we live in now, it almost rewards those instant reactions, right? Instant replies, instant judgments. A disciplined, thoughtful response, well, that's pretty rare. And the scary part is, as we've just seen, that one moment, that lack of discipline, can tear down everything that intelligence and hard work built. So how do we fix this? Well, the Islamic tradition starts by completely reframing how we even understand a basic concept, strength. Modern psychology has a term for this. It's called emotional intelligence, and it's often talked about like it's some kind of contemporary discovery. But what's fascinating is that this very same concept was embedded deep within the faith over 1,400 years ago. This idea is captured perfectly in a saying of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He said, "The strong person is not the one who overcomes others by strength, but the one who controls himself while in anger." Think about that. Real strength isn't about overpowering someone else. It's about overpowering your own impulse. So the whole idea gets flipped on its head. Islam redefines strength. It's not dominance. It's not being the loudest. It is inner control. That is the foundation. So where does this blueprint for self-mastery actually come from? Well, let's look at the foundational sources of the Islamic faith. The Quran itself praises a very specific quality, and listen to the word it uses. Restrain. It doesn't say suppress anger or ignore it. It says restrain it, to hold it back, to manage it with intention. That is the essence of emotional discipline. And the ultimate example of this in practice is the Prophet himself. He faced unimaginable pressure. He was publicly insulted, he was relentlessly mocked, he was rejected by the very people he came to guide. And yet his response wasn't one of a fragile ego or reactive anger. There's a story where a man pulled his cloak so harshly it left a mark on his neck, demanding money. The Prophet's response? He turned and smiled. Now that's not weakness, that is mastery. This all sounds powerful in theory, but how do we actually apply it? The tradition gives us a clear, practical framework. Let's break down the 3 steps to building this kind of control. These 3 steps are simple enough to understand, but they take a lifetime of practice. First, you have to create a space between the feeling and your action. Second, you have to investigate where that feeling is coming from. And third, you choose a response that is rooted in excellence, or ihsan. This question right here is the core of that second step. When you're in the heat of the moment, you have to find a way to ask yourself with total honesty, am I defending the truth right now, or am I just defending my pride? Is this about a principle, or is it just about me needing to be right? That little moment of self-interrogation, that's where discipline is truly born. And that really gets to the logic behind the first step, right? The pause. Look, you can't always control that initial flash of anger or that feeling of being hurt. That's a natural human reaction. But what you can control is what comes next. Your first reaction is emotional. Your second one is chosen. The whole goal is to create just enough space to let yourself choose that second one. And when this practice starts to become a habit, it fundamentally changes your entire inner state. It cultivates a kind of quiet power that is visible to everyone around you. You don't crumble under pressure. You don't just escalate conflict. You become steady. When everyone else is losing their composure, you become a source of calm.
Your inner state isn't determined by what's happening outside of you, but by your own internal anchor. You become grounded. This is the fruit of real discipline.
So, I want to leave you with this final thought. We often think of worship as these big outward acts, prayer, fasting, giving charity. And of course, those are essential. But what if? What if your greatest form of worship wasn't an outward act at all? What if it was the quiet, unseen, moment by moment struggle for your own inner discipline?